All right, we're here with Dr. Cornell Cooper, Medical Director of the Center of Injury Prevention and Policy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here at University of Maryland Shock Trauma. All right, so Dr. Cooper, you being a pivotal part of what happens here at Shock Trauma, we just want to know a little bit about you, Doc. So where did you grow up, Doc?
Well, I grew up in a little small town called Dillon, South Carolina. 5,000 people, if you count the pigs, dogs, cats, goats, etc.
Okay.
Very small town, and I grew up with great grandparents and a grandmom. My mom had me when she was very young. She was a single 15-year-old mother,
Wow.
so she moved to the Northeast, like a lot of folks in my town did, to look for work. And I grew up with my great-grandparents who were laborers and a grandmom who also cleaned homes. That was my family.
Gotcha. So now, so what colleges did you attend?
Well, I was very fortunate to leave my small town, Dillon, and got into a program called ABC, or Better Chance. It basically took kids from my town, or from kids who had no money but did well in the school, and put them in these very competitive schools in the Northeast. So I went to high school in a place called Andover, Massachusetts. Very nice town, quite wealthy. Mm-hmm. And then my school was a very good school. I mean, it was really, the town really put a lot of money into the school itself. So like 80% of the kids in the school went to college, or some number like that. I don't remember the exact number. It was very high. So I was very fortunate to complete that school, and I went to college at Yale, and then went to med school at Duke, and then I came back to Yale for my surgery residency training, and then I came to University of Maryland for what's called a fellowship, or the end of my residency training, and then I joined the faculty here at the university.
Okay, so that's what brought you to Baltimore?
That's what brought me to Baltimore, my fellowship training at the Shock Trauma Center.
Okay, now, so now how did you get started with the violence prevention program?
So the Shock Trauma Center and still does have a great reputation for training and for the care of patients, a tremendous survival rate. What I noticed, and I had noticed this when I trained at other places as well, was that if there were patients coming back to the hospital as a result of repeat injuries, it wasn't car crashes, it wasn't falls, it was patients who were injured because of violent injuries, patients who were in the hospital because of violent injury. And I noticed that was carried at the Shock Trauma Center as well. And I noticed also when folks came back for a violent injury, they were more likely to die than they were the first time. And as I looked at the data around the country, there was other data that showed the same thing. So I became interested in this aspect of care at the Shock Trauma Center because I thought it was something that we could do something about. I think that people around the country felt that this was something that we couldn't do anything about. They felt that the social,
the hopeless situation,
the social issues that surround our victims of violence was such that we as a hospital couldn't do anything about it. And I didn't believe that was the case. I didn't believe that this was an issue that we could not address and improve upon. Because they look like the patients who I saw who were victims of violent injuries were the same folks from my neighborhood.
Gotcha.
So
now, is there any correlating statistic that all these people hold? I mean, besides being from the same neighborhood, is there something that everybody kind of has the same situation going on?
So you ask a great question. That's what we asked too. We asked the question, well, what were the things that put our patients at risk for being a victim of violence? Mm-hmm. That's what we found that there were issues such as being from, as you correctly said, being from dangerous neighborhoods. But we also found it was things like not having a high school diploma, having no income, mm-hmm. not having skilled training, not having a job, being from a family that wasn't a core family, that have single parent homes, for example. We found that substance abuse, alcohol abuse were issues. Patients who were abused when they were young, patients who saw their family members shot, patients who are injured in some way. All those things were factors that put our patients more at risk of being a victim of violence. So you're correct in thinking that there were factors that we looked at that were there that says these are things that we need to work on, and that's what we tried to do.
Gotcha. So now, me being a resident of Baltimore pretty much all my life, seeing a lot of my friends or people and associates that were shot not once, not twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times. And so, I definitely wanted to, because that happens a lot here in the city, even if maybe it's not a gunshot, maybe it's a stab, or maybe it's some type of fight or something that happens where people get injured, but they end up here more than most other people. Now, is there a statistic on the turnaround as far as how many people who do experience a violent injury, such as a gunshot wound? Is there a certain percentage of how many of those people return?
So right now, across the country, at our nation's trauma centers like the Shock Trauma Center, 30 to 60% of all patients who are admitted to our nation's trauma center with a violent injury will return to a trauma center with a violent injury within approximately 1 to 3 years. They will return with another violent injury. 30%, which is a very high number.
That's a huge percentage. I mean, that's hovering in the 50% range, median in the middle. And that's pretty amazing, for somebody to, and then for those people who come back, how many of those people survive?
Well, and that number we don't have a clear handle on, but we know that when you come back to the trauma center with another injury, your chances of dying are higher. In some data, the folks who do the research have said that your risk is 10 times higher of dying when you come back for a second or third injury.
So 10 times?
10 times higher.
Wow.
in some data. So and that's been something that we have seen over and over again published, that folks who come back with repeat violent injuries have a higher risk of dying, and we don't know why. Some folks have tried to say it's because they were injured before, so their immune systems are a little depressed. Well, these are young folks like yourself, so their immune system is pretty strong.
But in some cases, would it be, I know I've seen guys, maybe he's going through something on the block, in the hood, he gets into some type of altercation, he gets shot. And then maybe he goes through his recovery, maybe 6 to 8 weeks or something, but then he's back on that same block before he's really totally been healed. And I've seen those same guys get shot again, kind of still with fresh wounds.
Right. And that's, and what you are saying is what a lot of people theorize as a reason that they are dying, because their immune system is depressed because of their recent injuries or history of injuries, and so that may be true. But the question, could it be? I also wonder about the sort of the code of the neighborhoods, because in my neighborhood, folks would know that they knew who had been injured, who was the sort of tough guy who had been injured before. So when they got into a fight with that same guy they know who had beat up folks before, I mean, they had a different aspect of it. They went after those people harder. So could it be?
Yeah, you're right. And honestly, Doc, I think you hit the nail on the head, because most cases I see where, maybe the guy got shot one time, he got shot by one person, and then he comes into shock trauma, or he has to go through a traumatic situation. Next time they go for him, they're coming with 3 or 4 guys to kill him, because they want to make sure it's a done deal.
It's a done deal this time, and that's the way my neighborhood was. Yes. And that I think I don't know which is the more important factor. and it's hard to to quantitate that sort of thing, or to put that sort of thing into a research sort of quantitative manner.
You can't really put it on paper,
Right.
The revenge factor and all that. And I think so many, like, it's not a lot of forgiveness in the streets. It's not a lot of mediation. It's not a lot.
And that's a huge part that's missing. And that's what some organizations are trying to do as well, is to do some of that part. But you're right. There's not, and part of that is one of the things we looked at in our research. We found that, and you're right, that 85. If we ask the question about the factors that led to them being involved in this altercation, and 85% said disrespect. Disrespect was one of the core factors that led to that altercation. Again, and as you point out, an inability to resolve a conflict,
So this kind of goes into, our overall theme for this episode is it's about brotherhood, loyalty. And so that kind of plays into that situation. So now, I see that you're a part of the American College of Surgeons, and so you have a brotherhood, and that's a code. Like you take the Hippocratic oath to help people, not to hurt people.
Right.
So when you look at the inner city compared to, I would say, like normal life, like where does loyalty and brotherhood come into play? That actually in two ways, it promotes violence in one sense, because nobody wants anybody to mess with their people,
right.
And if they get messed with, they're going to get their people.
Right.
But then on the flip side of it, I don't see the people being loyal in the sense of trying to prevent somebody
Right.
from being injured. So is there any way you could speak to like how you see the young people or the people who come through shock trauma, how they look at loyalty and brotherhood?
Yeah, and we try to address those kinds of issues by trying to give them some tools to help to communicate. Because I think part of the loyalty and brotherhood that we see in the community is based on some respect survival of the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the miscommunications, a lot of the injuries, altercations that take place because of a lack of communications. And so how do we increase that communication? How do we give our guys the tools to communicate better, even in environments like they are hanging out in? And that's what we try to do by having them role play in conflict resolution kinds of episode. We need to, as a society, put more effort into all this. I think we need to continue. And I look at the violent injuries that we see, and I say this is a public health issue. Violence is something that we need to approach the same way we approach heart disease or diabetes or asthma. We know what the factors are that lead to disease. Like we know what leads to heart disease. We know what leads to asthma. We know what leads to diabetes, but we also know what leads to violent injuries. Okay, so for asthma, we look at things like what their home environment, for example, and we try to we know that things like roaches in homes.
Dirt and debris is going to give you asthma problems. By eating a triple bacon cheeseburger, going to give you cardiac issues.
being in violent neighborhood, living in violent neighborhoods means that folks are going to injure. Not having jobs, not having education lead to violent injuries. We know all those things. We need to address those things the same way we tell folks about bacon and salt and sugar. We need to address the things about education and jobs, etc., the exact same way. I don't think that one, in my mind, is much more tougher than the other. May one require more resources, perhaps so, but that, in my mind, is the way. Violence is a disease, like heart disease is a disease.
Well, I think with the issues of like the particular medical issues, it's kind of like, all right, it's kind of like if I cut this out, right, and then I replace this,
right,
then it's like, okay, it works. But when you're dealing with actual, like when you're dealing with violence,
right,
you're not dealing with a system of the body. You're dealing with actual people,
right,
which is a little harder to just. It's not cut and dry.
It's multifactorial. I totally agree. It's multifactorial, but it means that again, you have to say, okay, I know that my young folks of Baltimore City, if I don't get them through high school and they get the diploma or GED, they're going to wind up a victim of violence.
You're right, and you got to get them earlier than that, because they're not, because they have to be in that academic mind. They have to appreciate education.
Elementary school.
Yeah, because once they get to kind of what they call it, the teenagers, right, they kind of listless after a while.
Elementary, I totally agree, but we're talking about the lives of our young people, our future. So, and we know what we need to do. I think that, and it's going to cost us, just like with heart disease and diabetes, which if we don't address it early on, it costs us on the back end by having to do cardiac, having to do bypasses and transplants, etc. The same is true of our young people. If we don't catch them early, then they are going to be in jail, or they're going to be not able to take them care of. So it costs us on the criminal or the social end later on. So they're in my mind they're equivalent because of that. But it's multifactorial. Is it a bit more challenging?
Well, I see what you're saying, that it's hard as we make it. And so I think that a lot of times people don't see it as an issue because it's not in their neighborhood. And until it spills over into their neighborhood and somebody gets carjacked, somebody gets murdered, and they're like, oh, we need to do something about this problem. Right. But this problem has been festering for 20, 40 years. But now, this particular person's upset, or this particular community's upset because it's reached out and touched them. Right. But the communities people come from that's getting these injuries, this is an everyday experience. This is how they live. This is how they survive. Right. And it's like a clash in two worlds. Right. So now I had another question. Mm-hmm. Now, is there violent crime according to gender? I mean violent injury, or somebody being. So, do you see more men than women coming?
Yeah, absolutely. We've always most of the violently injured individuals that we see are men, and that's again part of the way our society is sort of built. Men tend to get more involved in these sort of issues of respect, etc. But in the past decade or so, we've seen more women be involved in these kinds of events as well.
Are there any factors which increases that?
I think they're the same factors. Really, it's a lot more of the violently injured women we use. Some of the women we see that are violently injured, of course, are domestic violence as well.
Gotcha.
And that is and that's a whole nother issues that we need to address. Some of the we also know factors that put women at risk for being victims of violence as well. Mm-hmm. For example, one of the startling factors is that is always to me just incredibly worrisome is that if you look at the leading cause of death for a pregnant woman is violence.
Wow.
And so, which is starting to.
Yeah, that's because that's like the idea of the pregnant woman. That's like the apex of like motherhood and femininity and love and everything. And then for that to be, that just kind of blows my mind.
It is, and it is a startling statistic that has been seen over and over again. So the question again is how do we as a society, knowing that, how do we then put in place safeguards to make sure that our women are not killed? And of course, when these symptoms happen, so often when the mother's killed, the baby dies as well. Mm-hmm. It is a startling statistic that we as a society again need to look at, not ignore, and embrace it, and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? Because we can. We're the richest country in the world, and we've done miraculous things like put men on the moon. We can do this. It's a matter of what you just said. It's a matter of do we as a society say that this is something that we should put resources to and impact? Because we can. We can impact.
So you started the violence prevention program, so you're already moving in that direction. Mm-hmm. Your program, how long has the program been happening here in Baltimore?
We started this program back in 1997, 98, yes.
Okay. All right, and so now you say you have other programs?
Well, there are other programs that are around the country that are very similar to ours. There's a national network of hospital-based violence intervention programs, and we had our first meeting almost a decade ago now. Mm-hmm. And from that meeting, we got to meet other people interested in similar work, and our goal as a result of us coming together is to work for the proliferation of other hospital-based programs around the country. There are about 32 programs around the country right now, and there are 4 programs that are outside of the United States, including Canada, England, and San Salvador.
So this is about awareness.
It's about awareness. This is about providing data and other evidence that if you put efforts, resources into this problem, you can make progress. So much of the attitude, I think, that we see about victims of violence is that you can't, that these individuals are the John Wayne Gacy's or the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world, and you can't do anything about that. That's the attitude.
And that's what happens when on the outside looking in. But then they actually find out these people are, their parents, their great dads, they're somebody's son. They have jobs, they're responsible people, but sometimes, circumstances may push you in a certain direction, might be, a bad decision you make, and, you shouldn't just be thrown away.
You are exactly right. They're the same folks. Our victims of violence have the same aspirations that other folks in other communities have as well. They get in situations in which they make a wrong decision, which we all do on occasion, and they may get down into a hole that which they are so deep they can't find a way out. And that's what we're about. That's what the program is in my mind. We're about helping that individual who's down in that hole find a way out and help them move forward, because we know that that's what our patients want. They don't want they have, again, the same aspirations that anyone else has.
Okay, so now I was injured, and thanks. I want to say thank you. Shock trauma saved my life back in 1996. And before that, I was before being a victim of violent crime, I was a perpetrator of violent crime. And but I see how after I was injured, and just by the grace of God, I was able to go to college and work for the government and things like that, which all gave me a better stable base in which violence is pretty much a thing of the past to me. For the most part, I'm always looking for something different and new, and I see what happens here at Shock Trauma on a weekly basis, where they have the men's group. They also have a women's group sometimes, but I've come to the men's group, and I see what takes place in there as far as like getting people to think different about their finances, about their self-esteem, about everything that they do. And I really I commend you for what you're doing, because some of these people don't get a chance to. They're thinking about their problems, their life is so jacked up, they don't get a chance to self-reflect on something positive about themselves, which builds them up. So how do you think that personally, from your standpoint, how do you think the violence prevention program helps the individual clients as well as the city overall?
What we do is, in part, give them hope. We give them guidance as to how to move forward, and we give them support as to how to move forward. We understand that there are a lot of challenges for our patients. They're poor. They like a lot of the educational tools, all the skill sets. It's difficult to move forward when you don't have a lot of that stuff. And what our goal is to help them attain those supports and give them support while they do that. They need someone like us who believes in them.
And I see that. A lot of the guys that come in, they might be a little down, they might be quiet, but they get a place where they can talk to people, and they can open up, they can be vulnerable. Right. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in the inner city, in the black community, is that black men, they don't feel like they can be vulnerable, and so that if anything happens, they have to react with viciousness. They have to be
tough,
super, they have to be what they call a gangster and all that type of thing. Yeah. But when we come over to the violence prevention program, you see a lot of brothers that been through a lot of things, and they're able to relax and just be themselves, and we can reshape that masculine image to show that being a man is more dynamic than just how strong or tough you are. It's about being able to range all those emotions, to be a complete person.
And being tough means being able to deal with the emotional and societal stresses that put on you. That's not just being that physical challenge out there in the world, but being able to meet the challenges of how do I get through this job interview?
Yeah.
How do I get through a difficult time at work? That's what being tough is.
You're right. And because some people, like, if they gotta go to the job interview, or even just, they might not even get to the interview. They might just rip up the application because they're frustrated.
They're stressed. They're frustrated.
And then they can come to a place like this, and somebody can say, "Hey, we can help you with that." And just that one stumbling block out the way may open up a whole new life.
Exactly. And that's what having an understanding that this is what our clients are going through. With David and Leonard, being able to see that and give them
David and Leonard, they're a few of the counselors here at the Shock Trauma Violence Prevention Program. Great guys, always looking to help out the community.
Exactly. And that's what, and they connect, and they let the guys be vulnerable and know that they're going to be there for them, and they're going to connect with them and move them forward. That's our only goal. One of the things that folks sometimes we don't do very well is we don't show we care about each other. And for us, I mean, when I tell you guys, I care about you.
You do.
You know,
I see you. You're happy. You're smiling. You always.
That's the bottom line.
And some people would think, you from Yale. You're the top surgeon. You're like you'll be some big wig somewhere, but you're actually with the people. You come talk to everybody.
We care.
And I think that's probably the number one key to the recovery. Is just knowing somebody cares.
We want you to care. We want you to move you forward. We care, and we're gonna do anything we possibly can to help you take the next step in your recovery, to take the next step to take care of your family, take the next step to do whatever you want to do. We're gonna help move you forward, and there's nothing, and all we care about is that you move forward.
Now I got one more question for you, Dr. Cooper. Now this kind of backtracks a little bit. You're saying we're doing whatever we can to help these people, but even before they even get to the program, you have to get them out of that operating room. So what type of energy goes into saving somebody's life? Gunshot wound, car accident. Whatever it may be. They say, Dr. Cooper, we have this person, and you got to go in. Like, what type of mindset you have to be in? And even if you could, because I don't know, like, I understand y'all do lose people sometimes.
Yeah.
And so how do those things affect you?
Well, one of the things you train a long time to be a surgeon. And you put in very long hours to really perfect that skill set. Because you know that the lives of your patients are at stake, and I always go in obviously focused and with the thought process or the direction. We're going to save this guy's life. Period.
You got to be confident of it.
Absolutely confident. And if I get in a situation where I say, gee whiz, I could use blah, 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 I will say, call blah, blah, blah to come over here and give me a hand. Ego does not get in the way of saving your life. So it's whatever it takes to get that patient out of the operating room. And I will do it, whether it takes 3 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours. Sometimes we work for 3 hours or 4 hours, 5 hours, and we get them out of the operating room, warm them up, and bring them back again, maybe a few hours later to do some more. It is a labor of love, and knowing that this is why you do what you do, and that's to save that person's life. And when you can't do it, it's always difficult, and it always should be difficult. The most difficult part about losing a patient, however, is when the most difficult part. I mean,
you have to do that personally every time.
I do it personally myself every time. I mean, there are other, everyone has their own style about who should talk to the family, but I personally always do it myself. I think that I'm the person who spent all that time working on that individual, and I am in the best position to deliver the bad news and answer their questions as best I can as well. I mean, most of the time the families are just a shock that they don't
have much to say. But now, is the violent prevention program open up to maybe if somebody passes? Is there family?
Yes, and we that's the thing that we are trying to engage even more, is how to take care of the families. And we will bring back for our patients who we've always been open to taking care of the families of victims of violence. So whenever, and especially the babies, mamas, and mothers, we always engage them and try to make them understand that we're there for them as well. Always the case. We are just beginning to try to do more in terms of engaging families whose family member dies? How do we make sure that that 12-year-old kid, for example, whose brother died on Saturday, they have the funeral, let's say, on Friday, then the following Friday, and that 12-year-old kid has to go back to school on Monday or Tuesday. How do we make sure that he or she has the tools, or is emotionally feel supported enough to go in there? I think that a lot of the issues acting out that some teachers are experiencing by some of our kids is because of things like that they've experienced that they haven't had a chance to really heal from, or
they just become numb. I think another thing what happened is, I see where maybe you got 3-4 brothers, and I see down the line 1, 2, 3, all of them died. And it might be years after each other, but all of them died from some type of violent crime, and that's becoming, a lot more increasing.
So what could we have done with that, with those siblings, with those brothers? How could we intervene along the way from an emotional supportive perspective, as well as what we're doing from our program perspective? But what could we have done to help them recover better from watching their sibling die? Is there anything we have done? And that's the question we're beginning to ask right now, because I do feel that we are missing an opportunity to stop the cycle of violence and death from families, from communities, by not addressing the grieving process, by not giving them the emotional, the mental health support that is needed when you lose someone. We just assume, this is tough, just go out there and do it. And that's, for a 12-year-old, 10-year-old kid.
Then you have even a lot of situations where maybe that 12-year-old knows what a gun is. And not to say that, you see it all the time, but when I was young, I remember I was locked up as a juvenile with kids that were 12 and 13 for murder. And so, the heart gets cold, and people are like, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to get revenge for my brother. And I think a lot of the things that happen in the city is about retaliation.
Absolutely. And
people not being healed, and people feeling hurt. And their only way to feel like they can fill that void of hurt is to hurt somebody else.
Exactly. And that's, again, part of what we want to try to address. How do we try to deal with that hurt before they do just what you said, go out and try to hurt someone else? Well,
Dr. Cooper, I definitely appreciate your time being on the Peace Code today, and having a very candid conversation with us about the city, the things that you do. The Violence Prevention Program is a great program. I've been involved in it for the last, I can't even remember how many years, but I know it's very fulfilling for me, just to come down and talk to the brothers. And at the end of the day, although I'm helping people, it probably helping me out more than anything.
And we all appreciate your involvement. You are a wonderful model for our patients to see, clients to see. So we much appreciate that.
Thanks, Dr. Cooper. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.